Welcome in to another episode of the Junkyard Dawgcast. It is a Stay Wolk UGA recruiting show edition. I am your host, Benjamin Wolk. As always, Jordan D. Hill is in the building. Jordan, we've got a pretty good episode, I think, coming up. We've got a bunch of things for me to break down. I was on the road down in South Georgia, down at IMG Academy's Pro Day. Been working the phones, talking to a lot of quarterbacks in the 2027 recruiting class as well. So just some general things that I want to catch folks up on the front end of the show. We have two really good interviews with 2027 running back commit Noah Parker from Macon County High School. Want y'all to get to know him a little bit more. I think that's a really good conversation with Noah, as well as the number one overall player in the 2028 recruiting class, Georgia quarterback commit Jayden Wade. Got to sit down with him for a little bit at IMG Academy's Pro Day. Really great conversations with both of them, as always. We'll do some predict commit. We'll do some arrow pointing up. Before I get into any of that, Jordan, how are we?
Doing great, and it's one of those things with our Stay Wolk episodes. I would love if we did them on a weekly basis, just because I always enjoy, catching up on the recruiting intel, and especially the segments toward the end of each show. But it's kind of nice when we space them out. I think we've gone about 3 weeks since the last one we did. It gives us a lot to talk about, and it gives us a lot to dive into, which I think is always entertaining, especially this time of year where, there's some stuff going on in the UGA sports sphere. I mean, a lot of basketball, baseball getting started, but we're still kind of waiting for football. So it's nice to be able to check in with these episodes and cover a lot of ground, and then, kind of carry this into spring practice, which is right around the corner.
I know some people would maybe prefer if we had some specifically cadenced show. I like it when it's like, all right, we know this is a big show. There's something that we need to talk about here because there's this recruiting show going on. That's why during official visit season, Jordan, we do give you that weekly one because there is something that you need to know every single week. So that's why we do it then. What you got?
All I was going to say was, who doesn't like surprises? Why would you want to be able to do two people you should not want to have to set your watch by is Jordan Hill and Ben Wolk. I think a surprise is a great thing.
I think that's right. The people that turn it on, they say, oh, okay, we're getting a recruiting show today. Let's go. I went down earlier this week or last week. Sorry, I'm in a little bit of a time warp right now. I apologize to everyone that just had to watch my brain figure that out real time. Went down to IMG Academy's Pro Day, one of my favorite events to go down to for the year. For one, because Georgia's always recruiting IMG Academy. I mean, they just signed 2 more guys in the last recruiting class with Zach Fort and Preston Carey. Right before we hopped on here, I saw someone on Twitter was posting PFF grades of Ellis Robinson and what he did in single coverage this season. And look, IMG Academy is always going to churn out top players at the University of Georgia. That's going to continue in the near future in the 2027 class. We already mentioned Jayden Wade earlier in the show as well, but it gave me a chance to go down, talk to some of these guys, get a feel of where their head's at in their recruitments, but also get to see them on the field, going through agility drills, running, doing various jumps, doing individuals, all of those types of things. It's just a very valuable thing to see. And the Georgia lens, it was as interesting as it's ever been because, like I've mentioned, and you're going to get a chance to hear my chat with him later in the show as well. Jayden Wade is the number one player in the country and the number one quarterback in the country in the 2028 recruiting class. And I know what everyone's going to say. We've talked Georgia football, Georgia quarterback recruiting enough, Jordan, to know what the reactions are going to be. I put out an article, a VIP article from my conversation with Jayden a week ago. I had one of those quote cards, and it said, here's how I feel about Georgia. This is why you go to Georgia. I'm going to go to the league, the NFL. Like, if you want to get to where you want to go, that's the place to do it. That was me paraphrasing what he said. You'll hear it later in the show, but he says that. And of course the reaction is, well, we got to see him sign, all these other schools are going to hop in once NIL gets involved. And I hear all that. I'm not going to play that song and dance. I'm going to report what he's saying as he's doing it, as we're having these conversations at this point in time in his recruitment. But I bring up all that to say, it's a guy that just believes in Georgia. He told me the story, and I don't want to give away everything that he's going to talk about in the conversation, but about getting his offer Christmas Day when he's in his 8th grade year, going into his 9th grade year, and that they believed in him so early, and that because of that, he had an understanding of what they really stood for. And when he's been to practices and games and in-team meeting rooms, and you hear him talking about Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo, but you also hear him talking about Brandon Streeter in an off-field role, or you hear him talking about Dante Williams on the other side of the ball. Like, this is a guy that just believes in what Georgia stands for, feels like he has relationships with, everyone around Georgia. And this was my first time getting to see him in person. I've watched him on film. We'll watch some of his film later in the show as well. I've seen him play in some national TV games, but it's a really impressive guy when you see him up close. I mean, the thing that stood out to me most from the entire pro day was beyond him being able to make every throw on the field, which he did, beyond the thoughtfulness with which he answered questions. And this wasn't part of our interview, but I did talk to him about the reclassification stuff, because there's been a lot of talk. Is he someone that might reclassify to the 2027 recruiting class? And I don't think that's the way that it's going right now, but he's someone who's talking about the percentages with quarterbacks who reclassify and how successful, like what the hit rate is on guys that choose to do that, and why he feels like that might not be the best route for him. So he is just thoughtful in a way that most guys his age aren't. And I think that's a big reason why I've heard stories of when he gets up on the board to do board work with coaches when they're talking offensive scheme, defensive scheme, and he's breaking it down on the whiteboard. The coaches that I've spoken to have told me that he's as sophisticated in that area as anybody that they've dealt with at his age. And so beyond all of those things, the thing that stood out to me the most the whole time, he's doing the broad jump. He broad jumps 10.13, which is significant. And one of his wide receiver teammates, Osani Gales, who is a very special athlete, witnesses this, sees that Jayden has put up the best broad jump out of anyone up to this point and wants to go compete against it. He goes and jumps and comes just short of the 10.13. He goes like 10.05, something like that. So nothing to, beat himself up over, but I think he thought that Jayden had been 10.03, so he immediately chirps at him, and then Jayden was like, man, I got you, and Osani was just like, dang, like my quarterback's a freak athlete. So there's a reason why Georgia got in this one so early. There's a reason why he's the number one player in the country. There's a reason why he's the number one quarterback in the country, and yeah, there's a reason why LSU is going to make a run at him, as they have now that Lane Kiffin has gotten there. I know that Tennessee's been linked to him, but right now it's like Georgia's sitting in a great spot, and they have so many different position coaches across the coaching staff in off-field roles that are so heavily involved in this, and it's someone that Georgia is not going to be shy being competitive for when we're talking about the NIL side of things either. So really excited for people to have a chance to listen to that conversation with him later in the show too.
I think the thing for me, one, I understand why fans are like, I'm not going to get overly excited about this guy. He's still got a long way to go. But at the end, as far as where he's going to go to college, but at the end of the day, you would much rather be Georgia than any of the other schools right now. He feels very strongly about Georgia. Otherwise, he wouldn't have committed. Yes, that commitment at this point in his high school career is not the be-all, end-all, but Georgia, like you said, is very serious about this quarterback. Just from what I've seen and not having seen him in person, there's a lot of reason to be excited. And again, that's why they pay us the big bucks, Ben, or maybe the medium bucks, is to follow these recruitments, to keep everybody up to speed on what's going on. And yeah, if you're a Georgia fan, be excited about this guy. Know that, he's not a done deal, but Georgia's in the mix for this guy, and that there's a lot to like about his game.
Yeah, congrats to you on the medium bucks, by the way, there, Jordan. I hope to get there someday. But no, I mean, I feel really strongly. I should say this as well. I feel really strongly about where George is positioned here, and I know what the narratives have been. And look, I'll say that, and then people on our board will comment and bring up Dylan Raiola or Jared Curtis as if I wasn't the one having to cover those whole experiences. Like, I'm not fully aware of what recent history has been and what some of the reasons that have led to that might be. Like, I'm not discounting the possibility that something else happens. I just am saying I think this one might be a little bit different. Some other guys that really stood out to me from there and that are very relevant from a Georgia recruiting standpoint. Eric McFarland, I think we have him as like a number 25 overall player in the country. He was a top 5 player in the country in the 2028 recruiting class. He reclassified to the 2027 recruiting class. I try not to overhype players because like you don't want to put them up against too high of expectations. And also, if you just like way overhype a guy and then he turns out to be an average guy or goes undrafted or whatever, people turn around and say, you know, why'd you? You thought that guy was going to be good. How can I trust you about anyone else? Eric McFarland's one of the rare prospects where I'm willing to put like my full stamp on it and say, this guy is one of those guys. Like, this is a special athlete. He's only 5'9", probably 180 pounds. So he's going to get linked a lot, especially as Georgia's recruiting him. And I've done it. I've heard people that I trust well do it, make the comparison to Zachariah Branch. I mean, this is a quick twitch, explosive, kind of freak of nature athlete for someone that is, you know, if you're stereotyping him, a smaller slot wide receiver. He just has a way about him. He's always open. He has an impressive vertical leap. So much like Zachariah Branch, you make up for some of those height deficiencies with your ability to go up and get it. This is one of those guys. And because of that, like, Georgia hasn't really been in this recruitment. Texas A&M had an official visit scheduled. USC had an official visit scheduled. Ohio State had an official visit scheduled. Programs that are probably more commonly associated with those 5-star, potentially lucrative recruitments. Well, Georgia has entered the mix in this one, and it's getting him on campus for that May 15th to May 17th weekend, which is typically that scavenger hunt weekend. It's already setting up to be a priority out-of-state recruitment weekend, and Georgia's going to get a shot at him before he ever takes those visits to those other places, unless someone were to get him to shut it down and not take visits anywhere else, a la Mark Bowman a year ago. But as of right now, I think that Georgia is going to get a swing at Eric McFarland. And when he's around, just mark my words, around that time, mid-May, people are going to be bringing up Zachariah Branch's name a lot as it relates to that recruitment with Eric McFarland. Really fun football player to watch. Got on my radar first through like the 7-on-7 scene, just because he is dynamic, and in that setting with spacing and all that, like, he is uncoverable, I would say. But you see what he does at IMG Academy, and it's the exact same thing.
I think there's plenty to be excited about. I know you had the board fired up, you know, with the Zachariah Branch comparison and just the thought of what he could be, you know, and again, Georgia has really done a fantastic job of going into IMG and plucking some of the top talent. And you got to like what Georgia's done in the past, those relationships they've built with guys down there. You know, seeing a coach with a Georgia hat on down at IMG is not a surprise. That's not something they're not used to. I think that helps when Georgia's going after a guy like Eric McFarland.
Completely. A couple defensive backs as well that I think Georgia will be linked to throughout the rest of this process. One, Sincere Gaylord is a cornerback, 6'1", 190, probably 180-pound type, long arms, great ball skills, smooth player, someone that I think that if Georgia's able to get some verified, like, you run these times type of guy, like, there's not many question marks about him. He's going to take visits to Georgia, Washington, Georgia Tech, Oregon, Auburn in the spring, and he's likely going to schedule official visits with all of those programs throughout that. So it's someone that he does not currently have an official visit scheduled with Georgia. I think it's very likely that he will. I think there's a long time mutual interest there between Georgia and Sincere. He's very close with Zach Fort as well. We had Zach Fort on the show about this time last year, and Sincere was one of the first names that he brought up when he was talking about guys that he plays with that he felt could end up at Georgia someday. Larry Moon was another name that he brought up that day, and he's a safety down there at IMG Academy. He has one official visit scheduled right now to Miami. Georgia's the next team that he mentioned when I was asking him questions about the schools that are standing out to him right now. Remains to be seen with both of them when exactly it would be that they'll take official visits, but especially in Sincere's case, I fully expect him to end up on Georgia's official visit schedule at some point. And like I said, Zach Fort, Ellis Robinson, recent history suggests Georgia's likely to take an IMG Academy defensive back.
Can we just acknowledge the name Larry Moon? Like, yeah, he's a recruit now, but you could totally convince me that Georgia had a Larry Moon playing nose guard in like the 80s. Like that is a quintessential Georgia Bulldog name.
No, 100% great name. I think it's Larry Moon. I believe it's Larry Moon the third as well. So there might have been a Larry Moon too out there doing something like that in the 80s. Well, maybe it wasn't at Georgia, but he might have been doing that somewhere. I will call and I won't go as in depth on them just because it's so far out, but I like calling out names of guys that if you're really a recruiting nut and you're in it, like these are names that you're going to hear for years and years to come. And these are names that I think are going to be linked to Georgia for the foreseeable future. 2028 offensive lineman, Major Green. He protects Jayden Wade. Jayden Wade's going to try and get the guy that protects him best to come try and protect him at the college level as well. Man Robinson, great name, by the way. Man Robinson is a cornerback. Bigger body, could probably play any of the 5 spots, but will probably play some cornerback at IMG Academy. I think those are 2 guys in the 2028 recruiting class that we will talk about for a long time. And then Eric Whitfield Jr. is a 2029 wide receiver, like 6'3", 6'4" type. When I asked Jayden Wade, and I think this was after the interview, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything from the videoed interview that we're going to have. But I asked him afterwards, like, who's the person that you would say, like, will be a Georgia Bulldog one day, other than you, that I may not be thinking of? And he said Eric Whitfield, which was the wide receiver from the 2029 class. So maybe, put that in your back pocket. He just finished his freshman year of high school, so there's so much time left for things like that to change. But maybe Jayden Wade putting in one of the earliest crystal balls of all time on Eric Whitfield. After my trip to IMG Academy, I did get a chance on this past Saturday to go up to Gainesville High School, where Prep Red Zone, shout out Prep Red Zone, was putting on a 7-on-7 event up at Gainesville High School. And there were teams from all around the state. Admittedly, I know a lot of folks in the 7-on-7 circuit, and they had encouraged me like, hey, come up, check this out. And it was just a chance I wasn't necessarily going in with any UGA specific intentions because I didn't know if there really would be any UGA related things there other than some guys that might down the line end up becoming Georgia targets. And then wouldn't you know it, Jordan, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Keemon Spell, Georgia 5-star running back, and his Pennsylvania Cash Cow Elite 7-on-7 team just is rolling on in to the tournament. I got there in the morning. I'm pulling up the rosters. I'm looking at the teams on the list, and I'm like, wait a minute. You're telling me Keemon Spell's about to be here playing a game at 5 p.m. today? I had no idea. I don't think that many people around the state of Georgia really knew either because there weren't that many other people there to see Keemon Spell, and I was a little bit surprised by that. But it was a great chance to connect with him because this was really my first chance. I saw him down at Battle Miami in mid-January, and I've kind of been open with this. I even joked with him about it when I saw him. It's like the last time that I'd seen him, I thought that he was going to reclassify and end up at Penn State. And I said that to him, and he was like, yeah. He was like, he wasn't saying I thought that too, but he was like, I know, like when we talked last, like things were uncertain which direction they were going to go. He said really what it came down to was he was considering all of that. And the more he thought about it, he thought that he was forcing the issue with wanting to speed up getting to college and doing something going somewhere that maybe he didn't want to go for the sake of speeding up getting to college. And that once he got to Georgia, it really just on that visit before he committed, it really just reminded him how he's felt every time that he's ever been on a visit to Georgia and why he's always said that Georgia was the best positioned team to be able to get him once he decommitted from Penn State. He ended up committing. I mean, he told me the whole story of committing to Kirby Smart in his office and Kirby going crazy and calling the rest of the coaching staff in to join them in the office to celebrate the occasion. And he kept using the word, and I know there's a lot of stigmas about what premier recruits care about nowadays, and that all they care about is the money and the glitz and the rewards that you get along with playing football and all that stuff. And like, I'm here to tell you that, like, yeah, those things matter. Like, no, like, I wish people didn't bring those things up every single time one of these recruitments happens, because, like, yeah, no, duh, it's gonna matter to an extent when you're able to get paid, like how much you're getting paid. Obviously, it goes without saying. The same goes for you or me, Jordan, or anybody that's listening to this. But like, there are other reasons why. If it was just as simple as that, then you wouldn't do anything. You wouldn't offer kids, you wouldn't build relationships. Signing day would come, nobody ever would have talked to one another, and they'd send over a paperwork for people to either sign or not sign. And I know that is sort of still how things happen behind the scenes, but you got to do everything beforehand. And Keemon Spell, more than anyone that I've probably ever talked to, used the word love in our conversation. I kept asking, like, what was it when you got there that made you feel that way? It was the love. What was it that Josh Crawford did from when you decommitted from Penn State, or when he offered you last summer until now, that made you feel so confident in committing to Georgia the way that you did? It was the love. What was it about Kirby Smart? It was the love. Like, and he just kept using the word over and over and over again, that he gets that feeling at Georgia, and he feels that. Now, like, is Georgia going to have to pay him a pretty penny? Yeah. Guess what? Nate Frazier and Chauncey Bowens are going to be doing pretty well for themselves this year as well. This notion that Georgia can't win these premium recruitments, I don't know where. And part of me is like old man yelling at cloud. Like, it's not everyone that feels this way. It's just a loud group of people that end up feeling this way. But this idea that Georgia isn't going to be able to win recruitments that might have, be competitive financially, is ludicrous. Georgia has some of the best football players in the country on their team every single year. That's not going to change. They're just going to have to be more creative with how they end up piecing that together. And Keemon Spell is someone that Georgia has very obviously looked at and said, they need to go and get that guy at running back. Look, they kind of tried to do that last year with Savion Hyder. That's really how they felt about Savion Hyder. But I think when you're thinking about how you stack your roster and budget your roster, if you're going to want to keep Nate Frazier and you're going to want to keep Chauncey Bowens and all the other guys that you're bringing in, well, you just have to be smarter than just going and spending huge on Savion Hyder. Well, guess what? If Nate Frazier has the year that I think people think he's going to have, the running back room number looks a little bit different, and it allows you to probably do something with Keemon Spell that makes you recruit him differently than you might recruit some other guys. And it's just, I know I went on a rant here, Jordan, out of nowhere, but when I see Georgia win recruitments with Elijah Griffin and Elias Williams and Zayden Walker, and they retain Ellis Robinson and KJ Bolden and Nate Frazier, it's like, yeah, I do think that Georgia can hang in terms of how competitive their offer sheets are for these players that they really, really, really want to have on their roster, either get on their roster or keep on their roster. Sorry for the rant.
No, I'm sure the folks listening were all about it. And my thing, Georgia's going to make sure that their players are taken care of. I don't think that is really an extreme idea or a notion, which I think you agree with too. But for me, you have to have those relationships, because it's one thing to sign a 5-star guy. It's another to get that guy to stay for 3 or 4 years and be a part of your program. Georgia, it's very special true freshmen who get on the field at Georgia. And why I say that, not every guy is going to play right away. And the guys who earn that playing time, they get on the field. But, a lot of these guys in these signing classes, they're not going to play a real role until maybe their second year, maybe even in their third year. But Georgia wants those guys to buy in to being a Bulldog, to buy into the hard, to buy into the process, and to understand that, in the long run, they're going to be better for it. Now, again, We understand the financials of it. And yeah, I'm sure there are recruitments Georgia's lost out on because of money. But I really think you could point to every program in the country, even the big time spenders who find themselves in that position. I think there's a lot to be excited about with Kamon Spell and just what they've got there. And like you said, I mean, you look to his class. I mean, running back is a very important position. And I really like what Georgia's already done, getting its resources and what they are willing to do to bolster the running back room going into 2027. I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think that the future is very bright for that room.
I should note, because I had been calling him Kamon at times, it is Kimon. So I want to make sure that I and others get that right in the future. Kimon Spell.
I was just going to say that will be the only time on this episode we say somebody's name wrong. No way that's going to happen again.
No, totally right. And Jordan, I don't know if we have highlights of him pulled up for those that are watching on YouTube or Twitter, but I was so deranged on my rant at nobody that I did want to call out. I did get a chance to watch him play in his 7-on-7 games as well. And that was, I saw him at OT7 finals in Fort Lauderdale last summer, was my first chance seeing him. And he was one of the best players out there, really a special athlete. I think what separates him, and when you watch his highlights, like, he has an incredible, and we talked about this not too long ago when he committed, but he has an incredible balance about him. He does everything well. Like, he blocks well, he catches the ball well out of the backfield, he has second level burst when you need it, he breaks tackles, everything that you look for in a running back he has. He's well put together. Like, you look at him now, he looks like he could step onto a college football field this spring practice and he would fit right in the 7-on-7 setting is where I think you realize how special he is at what he is able to do compared to a lot of other running backs. He is an exceptional pass catcher. Like, he plays wide receiver at the 7-on-7 level. Like, you wouldn't know. Actually, a funny little story is I overheard people at the 7-on-7 event talking about a couple plays that he had made, and they were talking about thinking that he was a highly ranked wide receiver from Pennsylvania, and they were talking about that receiver as if it was him, thinking that it was him because of all the plays he was making at receiver. They figured this guy must be a wide receiver, not until they learned, oh, wait, that guy's actually the number one running back in the country. I mean, he is really special catching passes out of the backfield. And that's what showed up most, of course, in the 7-on-7 setting that I got to see him at. But then you turn on the film and there's really nothing that he can't do. I mean, he's making a play on defense as we look up here. First play out the gate yesterday or this past weekend in his 7-on-7 game, he has an interception playing safety. So he really is an all-around athlete in every sense of the phrase.
Yeah, I like, we talked about it when he committed. I swear some of these highlights, Ben, just looks like he's gliding. Like, it doesn't even really look like he's moving. He'll drop an elbow into a guy, not afraid to lower the shoulder. I wanted you to mention him making that interception, because when you wrote about that on Dogs 24/7, I was like, this dude's legit.
Awesome. All right, so we're gonna jump into a quick ad break, and when we get back, we're gonna have some interviews with running back commit Noah Parker, 2028 quarterback commit Jayden Wade, who we've already talked about a bunch throughout the episode. I think those are great conversations. We'll take a little bit of a look at their film when we get back as well. Before we jump to that, though, please follow along with Jordan, Kip Adams, Olivia Sayer, and I over at dogs247.com. If you subscribe already, thank you. We love you. We appreciate you for being there. If you aren't, please go over and join us. We're about to get into spring practice here. Jordan, let the world know when Georgia's going to have some spring practices, some scrimmages, when G-Day is going to be. That is right around the corner. Now is an awesome time to jump in and do that. There are going to be a lot of recruiting developments that happen over the next 3 to 4 months, and that's really going to be happening. I mean, we already have running list going of everybody that we know that's going to be taking official visits to Georgia in the summer. Like, there is a lot that you can get access to over there that is relevant. No pun intended, completely intentional by our creators 24/7. But yes, please subscribe over there. And also, whether you're watching us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, shoot us a follow there as well. What's up, Jordan?
Just going to say, if folks are wanting to sign up, we've still got a deal where you can sign up for a year VIP membership, and it's 50% off. And great time to join, as Ben said. As we're recording this, we're right around the corner from spring football, and if you sign up for a year subscription now, that gets you covered through the 2026 season. Men's basketball is getting ready to, try to go back to the NCAA tournament. We'll see how the next 2 weeks of the regular season, the SEC tournament, play out. Georgia baseball is going. Olivia Sayers got that covered for us. So just wanted to shout that out. Still got that 50% off sale. I think it's a fantastic time to join. You guys know how much I hate giving Ben compliments. I don't think anyone covers Georgia recruiting better. So you know it's true if I'm going to say it. I'm not just going to say that to pat Ben on the back. But no, I hope folks will join us on the Junkyard. Great time of year, and the nice thing is, like, there's been enough to get us through, to this point in the calendar, and pretty soon we are going to be really busy. And it's great news for subscribers because they got a lot to read, to watch, to listen to. I think it's a great time to join us over on the Junkyard.
All right, let's get into Noah Parker, Jayden Wade, and we'll see y'all on the other side. Welcome into the show a very, very, very special guest. We're sitting in Macon County High School, sort of a famous high school around the Georgia parts, I would say, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But first time on the show, we really appreciate you joining. We've got Noah Parker, running back in the 2027 class, one of Georgia's first commits in the 2027 recruiting class. Noah, thank you for joining the show.
Yes, sir. Welcome. Thanks for having me.
I want to start. We'll go back to the beginning, and you and I have talked about this a bunch over the last year or so, but when did it all start with Georgia? Like, take me back to when you first realized, like, wait a minute, this is a dream that I could actually see out.
Okay. I'll probably say around about my 8th grade year, like, I really, like, fell in love with Georgia because around that time, I mean, Georgia was a winning program. I mean, don't get me wrong, and, I kind of just stayed on the on that winning side with them. And, my recruitment started to build up my 8th grade year. I didn't get no looks from Georgia yet, but I didn't stop because I camped at Georgia all the years I was in school, still is. Like, I started from 8th grade all the way up to 11th grade. And then, I kind of got that offer and, I already knew, like, this is the school I want to go to. So.
I know going into your junior season is when things really started to pick up. I know that you had gone up there over the summer, and then you started going to several games during the season. Like, I remember anytime I start seeing the same name pop up over and over, I say, all right, what's going on? Something's going on here. Right. When was the moment for you when Georgia really, it was like you were ready? Like, you knew, all right, I don't need to wait any longer. Like, I'm ready to be a Bulldog.
It was the game when I went up to Kentucky, and, Georgia got this thing called Bones.
Yeah.
And, I spent a lot of time with the coaches, like Coach Crawford. Like, we spent a lot of time that day, just together, talking ball, just from me watching them at the game and then to translate to Bones and, just have fun, talk to coaches, learn a little bit more about the history of Georgia. It was everything I needed, and it completed. So, that was my thing.
I mean, a little peek behind the curtain there with the Bones. Like, what is for the folks at home? Like, what is that, and like, why do you think it's so important for you throughout your recruitment?
So Bones is like where you go. Like, they have like meals for you to eat, hang out with the coaches, play games like pool, arcade games, just talk ball. Talk to the coaches, get to know each other, and it was so important for me because to have a relationship with that position coach, it builds trust. It builds a lot. And, just for me and him to sit down with my parents, talk a little bit about everything, it meant a lot. And I feel like you need a relationship with a coach, with your coach that you're going to be playing under. So, that was good. That was great. So I feel like that's important.
I know we've talked a bunch about Josh Crawford and what he's done at the running back position since he's gotten to Georgia. He's obviously very familiar with South Georgia from his high school coaching days down here as well. What is it about Josh Crawford? I know you're not the only running back in Georgia's class now, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. What is it that has top running backs wanting to go play for Josh Crawford?
Just the development. He's developed running backs. He's developed, a lot of guys because, like you said, his time being at Georgia as a running back coach, just his development and the coaching and the passion he has for the game. Like, he's a great coach on and off the field. Like, he's a great father. Like, I talk to him almost on a daily, Like, he's a great mentor, a father, a coach, like everything. So, he's a great guy, and just to have him as a coach, that's all you need.
Do you remember the moment that you told Georgia that you were going to commit to them?
I did. Me and Coach was on the phone, and we kind of talked about it, and I kind of asked him, I'm like, Coach, whenever you give me the okay, like, I'm going to do it. And, he was like, the okay? Like, oh, you got the okay. I'm ready. We ready. So, that upcoming month, I believe it was November, and, that game came around. They played Texas. Oh, it was time.
Yeah.
And, I committed that day, and it was all cherished moments. Like, I cherished that moment to the fullest.
What all went on that day? Like, I remember that day vividly.
Right.
Like, I was waiting. When's it going to happen today? When's it going to happen today? You were probably like, man, leave me alone. Stop asking me when it's going to happen. But what was that day like? It was obviously a big game.
Right.
They win the game. You commit that day. Like, just kind of take everyone into that day and what all went into it.
It was the best day of my life. I'll say, just for me to just commit to the school. Like, everybody was there. It was big time recruits was there. Like, I was getting dap ups from a lot of guys. Like, I didn't know. I knew them, but like a lot of them, I really didn't know it. But it was just all the family. Like, Georgia's all about family. I was getting loved on before the commitment and then after commitment. Like, it was just a great moment to just talk to Coach Kirby, like, one-on-one, have that sit down, get his permission, get his okay, and that was the best moment of my life for my parents, just to see them smile, because that's all it is about for me. I want to see my family, want to keep them smiling.
How did the getting the okay from Kirby conversation go? Like, what went into that one?
Right, man, it was fun. Like, he had this office where he just locks in at, and we was welcome, and we sat down, we talked, had fun times, and I kind of pulled it to him. I told him the news, like, Coach, like, I'm ready. I'm committed. He's like, oh, yeah, let's do it. We dapped up, smiled. We took pictures. We talked more, and that was just a great moment.
For sure. For everyone can throw on the film. They could see what you've done. They can look at your stats, whatever. But when you're describing your game as a running back, like, what do you think you bring to the football field?
I bring everything. I bring physicality, speed, vision. I bring it all on the field. Like, I'm a dog. And I want a lot of people to know that, like, because where I'm from, I'm at a small town, right? So, like, you don't have many looks down here, but down here is where real football is played, down South Georgia. And I'm a dog down here, like, we put the work in. I have to put the work in 10 times than a lot of people. So, I know what it takes. And I know what that grind takes. So, I'm a dog, and I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show the fans, Georgia fans. I'm going to show everybody.
They say that if you're, like, within a couple miles or, like, a mile of a Piggly Wiggly, that's where real football players are played. And I was sitting in the parking lot, and I'm looking straight out the parking lot, and there's a Piggly Wiggly. Like, there's football players all right around here.
Dogs.
Who are your go-to running backs? Like, when you're looking at guys at the college level or the NFL level, like, who are your go-to guys?
Okay, so, and I'll start with NFL. So, like, because I watch ball. My favorite running back right now, and I grew up watching him a little bit, Josh Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs, Alabama.
Great back, man. And I remind myself of him.
That.
Like, Like, he's a great back, big guy, fast, can catch out the backfield, can move, like, he's a great back. That's my number one back. Number two, I'd probably say, and just keeping it real, I'd probably say Saquon.
Saquon.
I like Saquon.
Can't go wrong with Saquon.
You can't go wrong. I like Saquon. He can do it all.
Yeah.
He's that do it all back. You know what I mean? Like, he can do it all. So I feel like I can do it all. But like I say, I believe in myself. I'm a dog. I can do it all. You know what I mean? So I kind of remind myself of him.
When you look at former Georgia running backs, like who are the Georgia running backs that have inspired you?
Of course, Nick Chubb, Sony. Now I have looked at the all-time great backs and I watched film on them, like Herschel, like great back. You know what I mean? Todd, obviously, just those great backs. Those are great backs that came through. DeAndre, just a lot of guys that I looked at that put an impact on me. I'd probably say mostly Chubb and Sony.
Speaking of impact, we can't be sitting in Macon County High School and not bring up the impact in the Georgia world.
Oh, yeah,
I know you mentioned it's a small town school, but there's obviously been some big time players that have come before you. Roquan Smith.
Yep.
You can't talk about Macon County without talking about Roquan Smith.
Yeah.
I know that the two of you have a pretty good relationship as well.
Yes, sir.
But before I get into anything with him, like, what is your relationship with him and like what role has he played just in your football journey?
I mean, like, we have a great relationship, and I talked to him before the commitment, and I asked him because I know he's played there. He know what it takes. So I wanted to know from someone who's been there, done that, that know what it takes. So is this the right decision? Is the school gonna be better for me? You know what I mean? So I kind of had that conversation with him, and he sent me voicemails, like the voice messages. He sent me messages like, bro, you're going to get took care of. You know what I mean? Like, that's the place, bro. You're going to get developed. Any position that you play there, you're going to go to the league, like everything. So, you know what I mean? I took that. I prayed, talked to my family, and I knew it was the right decision.
Well, I know you've mentioned this to me before, so this is why I'm asking it, but there's something almost meaningful about the University of Georgia and the Macon County relationship.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what is it about Macon County that fits so well with what Georgia likes to do as well? I
mean, Macon County and Georgia is like this. They go back and forth. I mean, it's history here with the University of Georgia. I mean, we had about 3 to 4 guys from Macon County go to Georgia, like Tony Cochran, Roquan, obviously. I want to say it's another guy. It's been people here produced, at the University of Georgia. So, I mean, the history, it goes back, just to continue that legacy. I mean, it feels great.
Georgia added another running back in the class recently. Kimon Spell. Have the two of you gotten a chance to connect at all yet?
Not yet, but we are in a group chat,
okay.
And we talked as a whole. So we did that.
Have you gotten a chance to look at his game at all? Like, are you familiar at all with what kind of back he is? I mean, I think the two of you complement each other pretty well. But like, what have you seen from his game?
I mean, bro, he's a dog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A great player, like great back. I mean, what I've seen from him, he's very explosive, fast. Can bring it all. I seen he plays defense also. That's great. And like I said, he's a dog, man. Welcome to have him to the class. Like, I feel like he's gonna boost his class up. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna get guys, bring guys along with us, man. Like, this is gonna be the best class in 27.
What's been I know you mentioned that 27 group is already getting to know each other. What's that been like? Who have you gotten a chance to know already? And like, what's that team building experience been like within the 27 class already?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we are in the group chat, and mostly we talk every now and then, you know what I mean? Because a lot of guys right now, those guys are with 707, going crazy right now. And it's mainly the Georgia commits, like Aiden, like he's going crazy right now. Kimon going crazy. Just a lot of those guys, hopefully we can get Brock. You know what I mean, bro? That's a big pickup. Like, I really feel like he'll come. He's going crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Kelsey, I got to know Kelsey a little bit. I know Kelsey a little bit. Just a lot of those guys, like Deontay Wright, he's going crazy. It's just a lot of dogs, man. We're going crazy right now.
Is there anyone in particular? I know you mentioned Brock Williams.
Right.
Is there anyone else in particular that the coaching staff or that the group as a whole has said, like, all right, these are the next guys that we're going to try and bring into the class with us?
Of course, man. My guy, Andrew, like my dog, like, got to get him. I obviously want to play along with him, you know what I mean? Like, and also Kimon, you know what I mean? Who else would I like to see join us?
Andrew Beard, for those that are unsure about that. Andrew Beard.
Who else would I like for us to join us? I'd probably say AP.
Yeah, Maury Patterson.
Oh, yeah. Who else?
You don't got to give away all the
Okay.
secrets. You don't got to give away all the secrets. That's a good place.
No,
to
yeah,
start.
right. Yeah.
All right. So I know you've got your Georgia official visit scheduled already for
Yes.
June. I'm assuming that you'll get up for spring practices
Mhm.
at some point as well. Now that you're in the class, like when you go on these visits, what are you trying to get out of your experience at Georgia?
To just feel more at home, feel the dynamic of the the program. I know it's gonna take hard work and dedication. I want to feel that. I want to get a feel of everything, so I know I'm prepared. You know what I mean? And I don't really think it's nothing to prepare you for what Georgia brings, but I'm gonna be ready.
Awesome. Well, no, I appreciate you very much for coming on. This won't be the last.
Yes,
the
sir.
rules are now that you've come on once, now you got to
Right.
come on again.
Yeah.
So we'll have you on many more times throughout the year, but
Yes,
I appreciate you very much.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Welcome into the show, a very, very, very special guest. We have the #1 overall player in the country in the 24/7 Sports rankings in the 2028 recruiting class. It's quarterback Jayden Wade, Georgia commit. Jayden, thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into Georgia and any of that, we can all turn on the film. We can all say this is what Jayden Wade is. I can say you're the #1 player in the country, whatever.
Yes,
How would you describe what you bring to a football field?
What I bring to a football field is a passion, dedication. I'm a big fan of consistency. I think I'm a big leader on the field. I'm a very competitive person, as everybody keeps saying. But yeah, I think I'm gonna bring a dog mentality.
For you, let's go back to the beginning with you in Georgia. Like, when did it start with Georgia? Like, when did you start to realize, like, all right, this is a place that's really recruiting me, and this is a place that I could really see myself being at?
When I really noticed they started recruiting me is when they offered me on Christmas, my 8th grade year.
Yeah.
It was before anybody even seen anything in me. They seen the potential in me early, and then they pulled the trigger and wanted to take a chance. So I think that's a big key factor that pointed out for me. And I just stayed loyal with them ever since, and we just kept getting a better bond and kept communicating more. I went up there, and I loved it. I feel like it's home.
What do you remember from that Christmas? Like, do you remember?
I just remember Mike Evans, my manager, he called me. He was like, "Georgia want to talk to you." And I was like, "Okay." I called them, and they said I had an offer. I told my mom. We started celebrating, jumping up, happy. It was a big celebration for me.
For them to show as much interest in you early and sort of recognize your talents early, what have they said through the years as to what it was that caught their eye about you so much?
What caught their eyes is them watching me my 8th grade year, me playing a little bit, and they already seen I was a big kid, big, fast, strong kid. I had everything that the physical standpoint. They seen the potential in me early, like I said earlier. But yeah, I think that's what caught their eyes early.
When you really, so that you stuck with them. I mean, you've been saying for a long time that Georgia was your top school.
Yes, sir.
When you finally got a chance to taking visits up there, what was it about Georgia that sort of validated how you might have felt once you got that offer?
What stood out is them just showing the effort, the love, and that they really want me. They're showing my mom they really want me. And my mom really loves them too as well. And just seeing that, no other college has done that for me. So I think that's really a key factor that stood out.
I know you didn't end up committing, I guess, until the Texas game. Was that the day that you
Sir.
committed? Was the day of the Texas game? But if I heard correctly, you kind of told coaches months and months before that, like, hey, this is how I see it playing out.
Sir.
I want to wait it out, but I'm going to be a dog. I just want to wait
Sir.
until the Texas game to announce it. Like, take me back to when you actually told the Georgia coaches, hey, I'm going to end up committing to Georgia.
Yeah, so I had a group call with my mom and Mike Evans, and we had to talk about Georgia and me. And I was telling them I love what they do with the quarterbacks. I love the school. I love the facility. And I had called Coach Kirby and said I'm a silent commit. And then after that,
when was that roughly?
I know that was during the season.
Okay.
I can't remember like a specific date,
okay,
but I know it was during the season.
So then like, what was his reaction when he finds out? I mean, I'm sure
he was happy. He was pumped up. He was fired up to hear me silently commit, and I'm going to be a dog.
When we're talking about those relationships at Georgia, like I know that there's a lot. Like you got Kirby Smart, I'm sure Mike Bobo, some of the other quarterback coaches that maybe are more off the field type roles. But who all would you say are people that played a role in getting you to Georgia?
What I think that played a role bringing me to Georgia is Mike Evans, like I said,
of course,
a manager, and Coach Streeter.
Yeah.
He was a guy that was always there. We do Zoom calls to this day, talking about defense schemes, just communicating more and getting a better bond with them and learning everything about Georgia.
For sure. So then you go there for that Texas game. It's a big day. I mean, they win a big game. It set them up for the season. They got a commitment from their top quarterback and public commitment from their top quarterback commit. What do you remember from that day? Like, what was that day like for you?
I just remember the little sirens. I forgot what the siren was, but it was like every first down they had to make a big sound, and I just love the energy there. And the Georgia fans is like real big. We're all about football. I just love the town, Athens, and I just love everything about it. It was a great game.
When you're talking to other top players, whether it be, I was just talking to your guy, Major Green, over here as well, whether it be receivers that you would want to come play with you, like what's your message to them as to why Georgia makes sense for top football players to go to?
I feel like if you want to go to Georgia and you want to get developed early and really get developed for the NFL, for the league, or where you want to get to, Georgia's the spot. And if you want to compete, that's the spot. And iron sharper iron, so you're going to get better going there, for sure.
How much are you recruiting Major?
I'm recruiting him every day. he in my class, so I'm recruiting every day.
I know both of you all got up for that junior day, and I know there were only like 4 or 5 28s that were up there for that junior day. What did you all get to do? How do you feel like your sales pitch to Major is going right now?
I think it's going pretty good. He really loving Georgia, but what we did on the junior day, we did like a little day in the life.
Yeah.
We went to class.
Who'd you get to spend time with that day?
Chauncey.
Chauncey Bowens,
yes,
okay, yeah.
Yes, sir, Chauncey. I spent time with Chauncey, so I was with him. We went to class. I liked it. It was a real good class. We watched the movie, so it was pretty good.
Okay, all right, cool. When you're talking to Bobo, when you're talking to Streeter, whoever it is in that offensive mind room, what are you learning from them? Like, what are you trying to get out of those conversations when you're just talking ball, X's and O's with them?
I'm just trying to learn little tendencies of the defense, like little tendencies I don't know, because I obviously don't know it all. I'm still trying to grow myself, so I want to know everything little that they run in their offense, everything little they run in that they go against the defense. What's their biggest look, like what's their most exotic list they have. I want to learn all that, so by the time I get to that point of level, I'm like fast-paced with it.
Cool. Everyone else I've been talking to, I've been asking them to give me their Jayden Wade scouting report, but I'm going to ask you to give me a Zach Fort scouting report. You got to go up against him on the other side of the ball a lot of times in practice over the last year plus. What do you know, or what should Georgia fans know about Zach, and what have you seen from him firsthand?
What I've seen in practice, it's like this little falcon blitz that they do, and when he blitz and he come hit somebody, you gonna hear him. I just know he a dog, he a competitor. He always gonna want to be first. I grew up with Zach. So
okay, yeah.
I knew him for a long time, and I know how he is. He's a big competitor.
For you, do you know anybody else in the 2028 class? Asa Wall, have you gotten to know him, the tight end in the class?
I don't
know. Okay, all right. Well, Jayden, I appreciate you very much for joining me. Thank you so much.
All right, Jordan. Always great to hear from multiple members of Georgia's various recruiting classes. I did want to get a chance to go beyond just what we heard from them, taking a look at their game a little bit as well. And I talked a lot about Jayden Wade, so maybe we start there just because we don't need to spend as much time necessarily on him because I was just talking about him at the beginning of the show. But, I mean, I was intrigued to see, like, how you size these guys up, right? Like, I haven't seen him in person. I'm sitting down with him for an interview. I'm looking to see, like, you're the number 1 overall player in the country. Like, I'm expecting impressive physical tools, and he absolutely has them. I mean, he is every bit a 6'4" to 6'5" type of guy at the quarterback position. Really long arms, really quick release. He's good with his legs. Like he runs well. He moves well. He is not thinking run when he is going into a play. Like he is thinking, let me find the open guy. Let me figure out what the right place to go with the football is. Like that's very much how he is oriented mentally. And he does an exceptional job of that. He is a quick processor, a very fast thinker, really smart young guy, which is why, like I said earlier in the show, college coaches have fallen in love with him from an X's and O's standpoint because of his knowledge and his ability to break it down. Of course, he does have the ability to extend plays with his legs and also, pick up first downs, do some design quarterback runs. There's really not anything that he can't do. And I think that from like a statistical production standpoint, I think that's where you want to see him take that next step. Like he has all of those tools. He's wired exactly the way that you would want him to be. He does what is asked of him at IMG Academy. Now I think it's how does he take over football games with a pretty dominant receiving core around him at IMG Academy. And I think that he's going to have a chance to be able to showcase that this next football season.
I mean, it's hard not to just watch these highlights and just gawk at his arm. I mean, even some of these slants that he's throwing into tight windows, I mean, he's got the arm strength to just, pull back and let it loose. And, some of these deep shots he's thrown and seen a few of those on Central Phoenix City. I've been to that stadium quite a few times over the years back when I was covering high school sports. But again, I don't know how – if you're a Georgia fan, you should be pumped, knowing that it's a long way to go. But I really love this guy's highlights. Should come as no surprise. Georgia knows what it's looking for when it comes to the quarterback position. I really like Jayden Wade. Super excited to follow the rest of his high school career. I think the best is still yet to come.
Totally agree. And then we talked a bunch about Keemon Spell, and as well-deserved. I mean, he is truly the number one running back in the country. He is a 5-star. He deserves every positive comment that people have made about him throughout this process as he has joined Georgia's class is deserved. Noah Parker, I think, is one of the more underappreciated prospects that Georgia has had in quite some time. I mean, and everyone that just got a chance to listen to him, like he loves Georgia. I think that he identifies with exactly what Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo and Josh Crawford want their guys to stand for. He wants to be at Georgia, and that's the most important thing to him. I mean, I think you always do worry when you are going to be spending big on a 5-star like Keemon Spell. What does that mean for what you're able to do financially with anybody else? And does Noah Parker's recruitment become too competitive? I think he wants to be at Georgia so badly, and I think that Georgia wants him there in enough of a capacity that he is going to wind up in Georgia's 2027 signing class. And when you watch Noah Parker, I mean, he has everything that you look for, really, in my opinion. I mean, unbelievable vision. Like the first thing that pops out when you talk about Noah Parker is he makes a lot of things look easy that aren't easy. Things that aren't there, he makes them there. And, I think there might be some questions about his top end breakaway speed, but when you watch his film, I don't really think that many of those questions exist.
Yeah, I'll get his highlights pulled up here. Didn't really think about that there are multiple people named Noah Parker. I was going to have those highlights.
Oh, and his highlights might actually be Jacavion Parker even.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I was wondering, I was sitting there stalling, trying to, talk about Noah Parker. But I mean, look, he's well put together. I mean, he is, I don't know, we have him listed probably at like 5'10", 198. It wouldn't shock me if he weighed a little bit more than that. I mean, he is just a natural football player. We've talked about, and he talked about Roquan Smith and Macon County High School, and they just are football players. Like they breed guys that just live and breathe football. And that's why the best football players to come out of Macon County historically have signed with Georgia, because there's just such a great cultural fit there between what they want to do and what Georgia does.
I was also just going back to the interview. Any running back, especially in 2026, if you're bringing up Herschel Walker, even if you don't really know that much about his game, that to me was a positive sign that he even kind of knows who that is.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Jordan. We're getting some highlights pulled up. Yeah, let's see it. I mean, yeah, like I was saying, I mean, this is a all-around back. I mean, this is someone that will put his helmet on your helmet. This is a guy that will run around you or past you. There's not anything that he can't really do. I think he's an exceptional complement to what Keemon Spell is going to be in Georgia's 2027 recruiting class.
Yeah, super excited. And again, I feel like I say this with all the guys that actually show up on the show, but I do think it's good. If I was a Georgia fan, I would be pumped to hear these guys. He's just somebody I'm going to be rooting for. Even if he winds up, if something changes, he doesn't sign with Georgia. I thought that was a fantastic interview, and to back it up with what he does. We're watching his freshman year highlights, so I think that it's safe to say, he's progressed and gotten even better since then. But I was just really impressed by hearing him, and you kind of combine that with his running ability. I think he's got a very bright future. I think if you're a Georgia fan, I think you should be excited about what's coming down the track. Just that running back, man. I think that Josh Crawford signed a couple of guys the last 2 cycles. I think they're in a really good spot when it comes to 2027 with both of these guys.
Totally agree. All right, Jordan. Arrow pointing up. I'll let you start.
All right, I got a couple of them. Let's do the patriotic one first. Arrow pointing up with U.S. hockey, both the men's and the women's winning the gold, and both over Canada, and if I'm not mistaken, both by a 2-1 score.
In overtime.
I was listening to our buddies Justin Ferguson and Dan Peck talk about this on the Auburn Observer podcast. I mean, Canada, man, you made this sport, and you're just going to let the U.S. dominate you in it. It was fun on Sunday. I had some errands to run, so I was like, I'm going to record the game. And then I was probably a half hour behind it live. And then I quickly realized I have to stay off social media because everybody is watching this live. And then I was texting Ben about some work stuff. And then I was like, hey, all right, I'll save it. Just don't spoil. Don't tell me what's going on. And, man, even being behind, incredible close to the men's game, the men's final in overtime. And want to shout out, too, Kenny Albert, man. He absolutely did a great job calling that. That was so much fun to watch.
Yeah, so for anybody that was supered out into this, you know that Jack Hughes got the penalty. So the U.S. was in a penalty, or they were down a man with the last 2 minutes or so around there, and as the power play has 20 seconds left, and I am just puckered up thinking that the U.S. was going to blow it right there in the last minute or so. Jordan texts me about doing this, what we're doing right now, and was like, hey, when would be a good time? I know, I'm about to be going on vacation. When are you going to be going on when should we be able to do this? And I was like, Jordan, I'm cool doing whatever we're going to do now because Canada didn't score. But if Canada had scored and we'd lost the gold medal and Jordan had texted me right in the middle of that, I would have put him on blast for everyone to know. And then 2, I would have refused to do whatever it was that he was asking me to do after that.
Yeah, that was a dangerous proposition on my front. But in my defense, it was the end of the second period where I was watching it. But maybe I should have kept that in line. Only I'll throw out 2 more arrow pointing up. Tyler Reddick on the NASCAR side. Tyler Reddick has started the NASCAR season with back-to-back wins. He's the first NASCAR Cup driver since Matt Kenseth to win the first 2 races of the season. Ben, I don't know if you knew that was at Atlanta Motor Speedway on Sunday. I've tried in the past to talk you into going with us to a race. I think we're going to go to Talladega in April. I'm putting you on the spot. Are you going to join us? Maybe go check out Talladega. We might see Tyler Reddick win again.
What is the exact date on that?
So it's great. It is April 27th, which is the weekend after G-Day and spring practice.
Okay. I'm gonna RSVP maybe. I'm not gonna give you a no, but I'm not gonna give you a yes yet. With that, we're gonna be in the heat of college football recruiting time. Me getting out on the road, seeing guys that are practicing. College coaches are gonna be on the road at that time. So I don't want to promise it, but Georgia's recruiting a couple guys in the state of Alabama where I might be able to double dip on that. I might be able to make that work where I go and do that and then also just swing over to, say, Prattville or something like that, as a random example.
Yeah. The only other thing I was going to say, arrow pointing up, Georgia men's basketball.
Yep,
It
that was
was
gonna be one of mine.
not looking great, and they win at Kentucky. Only the 5th time they've ever won in Rupp Arena, the first time since 2009. I didn't have this in the story, Ben, but 2009, that was when Dennis Felton was the coach. So Mark Fox, who is now on Kentucky staff, had not gotten to Athens yet the last time that Georgia won in Lexington.
Wow.
Huge, and then to follow it up and beat, I think, a really good Texas team on Saturday. Texas team that had won 5 in a row. They've still got more wins that they need to get, but they are in such a significantly better shape than they were to start last week. So arrow pointing up, Georgia basketball had a chance to kind of go sideways, and they righted the ship in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be one of mine as well, was Georgia's bubble chances, arrow pointing up. I mean, like you said, it is such a shift from how we feel about Georgia's chances a week ago compared to how we feel about them right now. I mean, this was a team that was in the last 4 last 4 buys maybe last week, trending in the wrong direction every single week. And then now they're really not even in that conversation. Not, like I said earlier, not that you can't, work your way back into that conversation, but they're just feeling safe right now if they do things against the teams and do what they're supposed to do against the teams that they're supposed to do them against. So I would agree. I was also going to do arrow pointing up on America stealing hockey. I mean, the idea that, for it to be 2 gold medals in both men's and women's against Canada in both situations. I mean, it was a beautiful moment for online discourse. My gosh. I mean, I know it didn't take too long for it to devolve into something where people weren't able to agree on it, but for the time period that we had where Jack Hughes scored and the U.S. wins the gold, and you're watching the Canada humiliation ceremony where they're getting the stuffed animals handed to them and their silver medals put over them, and then they have to shake some diplomat's hand and pretend that they're not like the most pissed off that they've ever been. Like, that was just that moment of time, everyone coming together in America. Great for America. Arrow pointing up also, and I don't want to cause any problems when I bring this one up, Jordan. Wes Johnson's irritation levels, the arrows pointing up on those. We know Olivia Sayer does an exceptional job of covering the team. She asks a relatively harmless question, it felt like, after the game over the weekend. And he kind of just has a pre-prepared, this is how I'm handling this press conference, and I'm pissed off vaguely at someone about something. I had no clue what was going on. I've asked Olivia like 5 times. She's probably like, Ben, why you haven't asked me for anything in like 2 months, and now all of a sudden you want to know every little last thing that why Wes Johnson feels some type of way about something. But he's upset about something. I don't know what, but Georgia hung like 40 runs on whoever they played in the game over the weekend as well. So apparently it's resonating inside the locker room.
The best thing was he followed it on Sunday with like clarification / I'm not going to answer questions, and I honestly think it just led to more questions.
Yeah.
But like you said, they're scoring runs, so maybe a pissed off Wes Johnson is best for everybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, at this point, it's more like I just want to get to the bottom of it. Like I'm Team Wes Johnson. Whatever he believes in and is standing for in this situation, I'm Team Wes Johnson. I just need to know who's the bad guy. I don't even know at this point. I've tried to look around, like, who's the bad guy? I don't know who the bad guy is. All right, I know this seems counterintuitive as well, but because the arrow was pointing up on America at the beginning of my arrow pointing up. The arrow was also pointing up on Europe for me. Wife and I are going to spend our 5th wedding anniversary. We're going to go do a little European trip, do a little bit of southern France, spend some time in Florence, Italy. We're actually taking a train and stopping in Milan on the way to Florence. So we're going to swing by, sort of a little bit of a callback. We're going to have about 5 hours in Milan. I'm going to go find the site that the United States beat Canada to win 2 gold medals so that I can feel like I was almost there and a part of history on my way down to Florence, Italy. But as everyone's listening to this, I'm probably, enjoying myself in southern France as you're listening to this. Unless you maybe are waiting like a little bit into the week, then I'll be in Italy. So either way, just know that I'm enjoying myself.
And maybe when you go check out, where they won the gold medal, you might be able to get a hold of one of those sweet Beanie Babies. I'm glad that we've been able to repurpose, that the Beanie Babies are coming back thanks to the Olympics. I was going to say, too, man, 2026 is like the international travel year for Dogs 24/7. You guys are going to Europe. Kip's getting ready to go to Japan. My wife and her family and I are going to go to Mexico later this spring. Man, we're getting those travel miles, baby. We're going to be sitting pretty with Sky Miles after the spring period.
That's right. Dogs 24/7 is going international this year. So
God help us all. God help us all.
God help us all. All right. Predict to commit, Jordan. Last time, for those that forgot, or that are just now tuning in and catching up, unsurprisingly, I got way carried away in the first episode of the 2027 cycle with Predict to Commit. I went in thinking we were going to take 2 guys, which was already a little aggressive. Then I said, you know what? I sprung a third one on Jordan, and we're going to take a third one. So Jordan ended up taking 3 guys for his Predict to Commit team. Douglas County safety Adrian Cole, Bluffton, South Carolina wide receiver Amari Patterson, and Rabin Gap Nakuchi, Georgia defensive lineman Marcellus Young Casario, originally from Nova Scotia, Canada. On my team, I took Libertyville, Illinois tight end Brock Williams, South Point, South Carolina defensive lineman Seth Tillman, and Prattville, Alabama defensive back Jayden Aparicio Bailey. Jordan has put together, for those watching on video, an unbelievable graphic with all of these guys, so you can start connecting some names to some faces as well. There won't be any surprises, which maybe is aggressive. We're going to have 5 people on our team before February ends, but I figure, spring practice is going to happen. Probably mid-March is when we're going to end up having our next recruiting show after the Under Armour Atlanta camp that's on March 15th. That next week would be a pretty logical time for us to do one. So by mid-March, we'll have 5 people on our team. I'm actually going to go first, if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
I wanted to include this in what we were talking about earlier, things that I saw when I was going down to South Georgia on my way to IMG Academy, but I figured if I talked about this too much, you were going to steal him from me. And I just figured, you know what? I'll save it. I'll take him first and I'll bring it up then. But I swung by Lowndes High School on my way down to IMG Academy in Valdosta. There's a 6'4", 300-pound offensive lineman named Abram Eisenhower. Unbelievable name. And every cycle, last cycle we saw it with Graham Houston and Zach Lewis. Like, there's guys that Georgia thinks really, really highly of that I don't think the world knows as much about, and they're really just diehard Georgia fans. And Abram Eisenhower is one of those guys. Yes, Florida State's going to be in this recruitment. Yes, Auburn's going to be in this recruitment. And I think he's going to have an official visit scheduled to Auburn already. But he's visiting Georgia June 5th to 7th for that official visit weekend. And quite frankly, it would not surprise me if he took that visit and never took any other visit. This is a guy that just makes sense for Georgia's probably trying to put together a 6 or 7 person offensive line class, maybe 3 offensive tackles, 3 interior guys, and then someone that could sort of do all 5. This is definitely someone that could really play any of those 5 positions on the offensive line. At this stage in the game, Jordan, I just struggle to see a world where he ends up anywhere other than Georgia.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. That was my top name on the board.
Good.
So you got me back for Amari Patterson. And I was going to say this too, just with the name Abram Eisenhower. I don't think you know this about me. I've been able to name all the presidents since I was like 5 years old. So I just had to shout that out with a name like Eisenhower.
And just that doesn't surprise me at all. and as you like to say, derogatory.
That's fair enough.
All right, you're getting 2, so you're getting the next 2 picks. You got whoever you want.
All right, I am going to put you on the spot because I kind of teased this earlier, but I was like, probably won't be the last name that we say incorrectly. I'm going to have you say this interior offensive lineman's name. I will butcher it otherwise.
I'm gonna go Jordan Agbanoma.
Jordan Agbanoma is my pick. Kind of going off of what Ben just talked about, I think that this is going to be a pretty big offensive line class for Georgia. Interior offensive lineman from Grayson there in Loganville, 6'3", 295. I think this is going to be a fight. I think Texas A&M sounds like it's really in this one. But I think when we look to the 2027 cycle and we consider who Georgia's looking at on the offensive line. Big questions now that Phil Rauscher is the offensive line coach, and should mention, which we'll have talked about on the Tuesday podcast, is staying at Georgia after the NFL came calling and had some interest. But I see this being a very Georgia-centric class as far as the state. I think that Georgia's got a lot of guys in state that they really like. So I'm going with Georgia going down to Grayson and getting an interior offensive lineman that has a ton of potential. And I think it's going to be a fight. But, Ben, I really like where the chances that they wind up landing this guy.
So what I think is really interesting about this one, and this is something we've probably learned as Georgia's gotten more comfortable with the official visit calendar and how you stack your weekends and why you stack your weekends. What I think has become really interesting over the last 2 years is basically everyone that is taken their official visit, that last weekend, official visit weekend in June, has wound up committing to Georgia. And I think the reason for that is if you make it to that weekend where you are going to have a chance to commit to Georgia, you're going to commit to Georgia. And if you're not going to commit to Georgia, then you're just going to have already committed somewhere else earlier in the month and canceled that official visit to Georgia. So what we'll be watching with Jordan Agbanoma is, does he make it to that June 19th to 21st official visit that he has scheduled? And if the answer to that is yes, then you will absolutely hit on that. Now, the counter to that is, you mentioned like Texas A&M gets him at the beginning of the month. Some other schools are going to get him throughout the course of the middle of the month. There's a chance that he ends up locking it down with one of those places before he even ends up making it to that Georgia visit. But if he makes it to that Georgia visit at the end of the month, I think the odds are higher than not that he will end up committing to the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I think it's a total crapshoot. And there's some of these, especially as we've turned the page to 2027, felt really good about that first episode. Some of the guys we picked, that one I feel like very much up in the air, like you outlined.
All right, who's your second pick?
I'm going with the guy you talked about earlier in this episode. I'm going to go with Eric McFarland III.
Wow.
I think the potential. I'm going really heavy with receiver, seems like in this 2027 cycle. But with what you explained, I can just see James Coley looking at Eric McFarland and say, did you see what we just did with Zachariah Branch? Zachariah Branch is probably going to be a top 50 pick in this year's NFL draft. That can be you if you come to Georgia. Again, we've got a long way to go, and we know how some of these recruiting battles, how hard they are to win, and trying to decide, what they're going to do at the receiver position. But again, IMG Academy, we talked about, Ben did a great job of sort of pointing to Georgia's history recruiting the school and landing some top talent. So I really like Eric McFarland. I think that Georgia is going to sell him super hard on what coming to Georgia can do for his career, trying to get to the NFL. I think you just put on the Zachariah Branch tape and say, do you want to do that? And I think, eventually that wins Eric McFarland over, and he winds up committing to Georgia.
That's a big pick. And I will say this, if Georgia pulls that one off, like I know that there were some people getting on to me. Everyone loves Zachariah Branch around Georgia, and I do too. He was as fun of a player as I've seen play that position at Georgia. Like, this guy is every bit of what, when you're thinking of like big time playmaking, unguardable, untackleable in space type of player, like this is it. And we've seen Zachariah Branch have the ability to go out and lead the SEC in receiving or in receptions like he did this past season. Like, I think that, Eric McFarland can be that 60 to 70 catch type of guy and just makes some crazy plays in space. I think it's going to be really hard. I think right now this is a brave pick by you. It's a bold pick by you, but Georgia gets the first swing at it in mid-May, and you never know. And maybe I know Georgia's pushing the Zachariah Branch sales pitch a lot as well because of how much success it had this past year. And it's resonating because Eric McFarland was not planning on being on an official visit to Georgia, and now he is. All right, my second pick of the day is going to be East Coweta safety Chance Gilbert. I believe we have him as like the number 12 overall player in the country in the 24/7 sports recruiting rankings. So, that would make him, I believe, the number 1 safety in the country in those same rankings. If you extrapolate our rankings out to what they normally are, where is he? Where is he ranked right now, Jordan?
We've got him 45th nationally. He is number 2 safety.
Number 2 safety. Okay, I'm trying to think who I'm thinking of that's the number 1 safety. We have some safety that's up there high in the 24/7 sports rankings, but either way, one of the best defensive backs in the state of Georgia. Has a top 4 that is Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, and Georgia Tech, I want to say, is the 4th. He took a junior day visit to Georgia in mid-January, spent a lot of time breaking down film in the film room with Dante Williams, Travaris Robinson, Kirby Smart. I think that he's cerebral in the way that Georgia likes its safeties to be and could play a bunch of different spots in the defensive backfield. I think this is a decision that would be more likely to be made sooner than most, but sometimes guys will silently commit somewhere and still go through the official visit process. So not sure exactly what that might look like, but as of right now, I have on my team Jaden Aparicio-Bailey and Chance Gilbert on my predicted commit team. And I think those are the 2 defensive backs right now that Georgia's probably feeling best about, and probably 2 of the guys that they have the highest grade on in terms of what they actually think they'll be bringing to the class. So very, very happy to welcome Chance Gilbert to my predicted commit team.
Yeah, just looking up his top 4, he has Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia Tech. I believe that is what you said. Yep.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if Georgia Tech was the 4th one or not, but he'll likely have official visits scheduled to all of those 4 places. But as we know, we're in that time of year where, and I'll just bring this up, like I mentioned earlier, we have over at dogs247.com the running official visit list of guys as they're scheduling official visits with Georgia in the summer. There are going to be guys that will schedule those official visits in the coming weeks and months when they take spring practice visits. So there will be plenty of names that get added to that list. That said, there will also be guys that end up committing in March, April, May, and then that changes the fact that whether they're actually going to take official visits to other places or not. I mean, one that comes to mind is Jordan Smith from a year ago. He had top schools, he had official visits that he was going to take, but he knew he was never going anywhere other than Georgia. And after he took that official visit to Georgia, he said, why do I need to do this? Let me just commit. Let me cancel all my other official visits. That type of stuff is going to happen both in Georgia's favor and also against Georgia, where there's going to be people that Georgia's expecting to come on visits that don't. Likewise, there will be guys that Georgia has they're in recruiting battles for, quote unquote, right now, but they're going to get them here in the near future. And those guys might only take official visits to Georgia. So a lot to happen here in the next few months, which is why everybody should subscribe.
Yeah. I mean, that just means more Stay Wolk episodes, which if you're a fan of the show, that's great news. If you're not, well, move it along.
All right, y'all. Another great show. I appreciate everyone who listened. Thank you to Jordan, as always, for joining. Thank you to Noah Parker and Jayden Wade for joining the show. In a perfect world, that will not be the last time that either of those guys join us, because I thought they were great to chat with. As always, go subscribe to Dogs 24/7. If you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever that may be, please like and reshare in those locations. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please download, give us a 5-star review. It does help us. So we greatly, greatly appreciate all of you. Jordan, any final thoughts before we call it a show?
No, I think this was another fun one, and I'll just say, hey, enjoy your vacation. Sounds like a good time. And again, man, am I gonna praise you, give you compliments twice in one show? It's a well-deserved vacation. I hope you guys have a good time and come back fully charged, because there's a lot more Stay Wolk episodes coming up.
Yeah, whoever's listening to this right now, like I'm sipping on a wine, probably eating some cheese, very much enjoying myself. I am still sick in the head like you, Jordan, when I go away. Like I will still be thinking about like, all right, how many guys do I think Georgia needs to take at wide receiver in this recruiting cycle? Like, all right, if I'm stacking the top 4 DBs in Georgia's class right now, like where would I slot them in if I'm not able to take, like, those are all types of things that I'm going to be thinking about while I'm away. No question about it.
And I'm going to be sipping wine, eating cheese too. The only thing is it'll be a Thursday in Athens, and I'm still working. That's just how my usual Thursday
It's just
goes.
how Thursday goes. So, all right, Jordan. Well, thank you very much. For Jordan Hill, I'm your host, Benjamin Wolk. I hope you're enjoying yourself as people are listening to this just as much as I will be. We'll be back mid-March, I'll say. I'll put it on it after the Under Armour Atlanta camp on March 15th. We will have a recruiting show that next week, whether that be with a guest or just breaking down a bunch of things as it relates to the 2027 recruiting cycle. Appreciate everyone for listening.